Nature's Gent, the New Zealand Cup winner from 2017, clear on Diddley and Dynamonte. Nature's Gent wins. She's a Ripper explodes clear as others fan out wide, and She's a Ripper gets the Group 2 win.
Good evening everybody and welcome into DogZone. Friday night at Wanganui was a super nights racing. Team Turnwald to the fore, Quinellering the Group 1 Spion Rose with Nature's Gent bouncing back into winning form and breaking the 30-second barrier there as well. What a night it was. The man who called all the action on Friday evening joins us here on DogZone, Mark Rosanowski. It was an absolute super nights racing there on Friday at Wanganui.
Andy, it certainly was. I mean, there's no doubting that the two feature races were relatively rough in the way that they were run, but we had two very worthy winners and worthy times. The weather played its part after a fairly volatile week. We had Christmas at the races again, and the temporary stand seems to be working extremely well. I had my reservations, I've got to say, but they put up the scaffolding. They've had two good nights weather-wise so far, and we've got two more to go, and hopefully the weather will continue to play its part. I think that's probably critical, but the sort of underlying bubbling vibe that those people in the open air in that old, effectively disused stand provide does really add to the occasion, and it did on Friday night. And the racing across all four of the distances there at Wanganui, as I say, while there were some dogs who certainly can count themselves unlucky, ultimately we got some very worthy winners.
We certainly did. The Spion Rose, the feature of the night, it was the Group 1. It was taken out by Nature's Gent, Quinelled by his kennel mate in Diddley. We'll take you back to have a look at it now. Nature's Gent, the dog, in the white rug of box number 3.
Racing, Bago by steps well, and Penny Mac doesn't, misses the start. Going to the lead here is Nature's Jet, will hold up the inside. Pressing up to it the outside there was Diddley, getting a run through the inside then to Dynamonte, followed around the outside then by Idle Dude running into the race. Penny Mac next the inside. Further back then is Waitohi. Back with that was Barge Bale, and Bago bye to his chances tonight. Nature's Gent, the New Zealand Cup winner from 2017, clear on Diddley and Dynamonte. Nature's Gent wins, beats Diddley in a...
So that was the running of the Spion Rose, Nature's Gent victorious. And Rosso, it's always good to see these good dogs bounce back into the winner's circle, and he's now a dual Group 1 winner.
I really like longevity in greyhound racing, Andy, because we do have a relatively high turnover. Their racing careers can be reasonably short in terms of particularly of them being at the peak of their powers. But with Nature's Gent, yes, his second Group 1 win after the 2017 New Zealand Cup. That means 13 months in between Group 1 wins. It's a long time. Of course, he's heading for 4, this dog. He's now a real chance of making $200,000. He sits on 175, and if there hadn't been a dog called Big Time Paddy, he would have made it by now, because he was second to Paddy in the Wanganui Cup, and also, of course, in the Amazing Chase as well. He hadn't won in 10 starts going into this particular race, and they'd just been having a bit of trouble with his blood, as Paul Freeman had told us during the week last week. Well, he was spot on the night, and he got a clear, untouched run. He wasn't hassled at any stage, and his 5:09 lead-up turned out to be good enough. It did lead home, as Andy mentioned, and Angela Turnwald trained Quinella, and earlier in the week I caught up with Paul Freeman from the kennel.
I thought it was over when he jumped to the front, and there was no dogs around him. There was going to take out what may have happened last week with dogs pressuring him. There looked to be there was going to be nothing that was going to catch him to pressure him.
Nature's Gent had led in the heat the week before and wasn't able to round it off, but you did mention during the week that you've been trying to get the blood right, and clearly you had him bang on the night.
We just had ongoing problems with him, just not rounding his races off, and maybe last week if we'd seen a back straight view, it was hard to tell if Penny Mac was leaning on him. You know, he was in clear air, but obviously he run home in 11.50. He didn't do that last week, so maybe the blood was right. He's one of those dogs, if you watch every race, he can come up with an excuse, and he's notoriously does everything wrong, and Christchurch was a nightmare for him. He'd gone good races, but hey, to jump 3 times in his life, there's always a bonus, and especially when the money's up.
How special do you think he is? Because not many dogs win a Group 1 when they're rising 4 in sort of 13 months after his previous Group 1.
Oh, I mean, the dog's just a pleasure. Angela just loves him to bits. There's nothing ever wrong with him, and he responds to whatever you want him to do. He's probably one of those dogs that we all hope to have in our lifetime, and we've got him now, and obviously we're going to do the best we can, and I think we could still get another year out of him. It might sound silly, but, you know, he's probably going as fast as what he was 13 months ago.
Did Lee, you said at Addington, surprised you a bit winning down there. So has he continued to surprise you now that he stepped up to Group 1 company?
Well, he has. I mean, to take a dog to Addington, a young dog, and go 30.09, it was just like, I potted the dog going down there. You know, how could he be favourite? Just ridiculous. But he's just gone from strength to strength, and he's shown that too, obviously, with his run in the heat, and obviously a nice second on Friday.
And looks potentially a good derby dog?
Well, all those restricted age races, that'll be right up his alley, and he's heading up to Cambridge on Thursday to have a look around there for the Superior Classic come Christmas Eve.
And although Waitohi was the third of your dogs who didn't feature in the finish on Friday night, she looks to have New Zealand Oaks potential, and you've already headed down at Addington for a look around?
Oh yes, we've watched the replay of Friday numerous times, and I don't want to sound arrogant saying that, you know, she got tangled up with Marcy's dog, and Marcy's dog took her spot, and Marcy run third, so we're more than happy with her, and you know, she's had a lot of setbacks, and in our eyes she's by far better than Diddley. She just needs to get the runs on the board.
There was Paul Freeman with his thoughts around Friday evening's runs, and gee, Rozzo, I know Nature's Gent was good, Diddley just as good, and as you touched on in that interview, restricted age racing in front of him, derbies and classics, etc. He's a really exciting prospect over the next 6 to 8 months.
He certainly is, and Diddley goes to Cambridge tomorrow to have a look at the track up there, and he draws box number 1. He seems to want to push down for the rail, although kindly, he didn't do that early to Nature's Gent, his kennel mate. He showed some respect going into the first bend, which was critical, and Nature's Gent was also able to clear Monty from the inside. That's Dynamonte, so he was in good shape. Diddley later, of course, and Dynamonte had a bit of a running battle throughout, and it cost Dynamonte third because he checked badly halfway down the straight, which allowed Idle Dude to get through. Waitohi running fifth here, a couple of bumps early, and as Paul mentioned, she got checked going into the back straight when Idle Dude got to the spot first ahead of her. And she's, as we say, restricted age as well, the sister to Diddley, and another sister, Hot Platter, looks an Oaks prospect too, and she's come right again. She won at Manawatu on Monday, so all of that family looking good for the Turmoil team, it's got to be said. Andy, spent some time with some really happy owners at the end of the night. The Bookie and Us Syndicate own Nature's Gent, and Kevin Gushlaug here from the New Zealand Racing Board is a very proud owner. He wasn't able to be there on the night, he was away on holiday, but Kevin Brady was. Kevin Brady's a former Auditor General. We're going to get him on the show at some point. He just loves his greyhound racing. He had shares in all 3 of those finalists. He backed Waitohi, the one that ran 5th, but he just had an absolute ball. And alongside of him at the end of the night was Marcy Flip, the happiest trainer I've ever seen that hasn't won a race, Andy, but with Idle Dude getting third, young New Zealand bred dog, the only New Zealand bred in the field, and with his brother Idle Nifty also running third in the Dash for Cash, and their older half-sister running second in the Dash for Cash. It was a very happy table that I was sitting around at the end of the night.
I could imagine it would be. Rozzo just a couple of runs in behind Penny Mac and Bago Bye Bye, obviously the 2 favourites for the race, and things just not going right for them, especially Bago at the first turn.
Yeah, look, it was a shame to see that because he actually made a good beginning, and you could possibly argue he made too good a beginning. He ended up parked 3 wide, and Diddley didn't really help him much at all going into that first bend. And then as he tried to push across, Idle Dude was coming in. There was a bit of a sandwich there. He probably took a shorter stride, and then that allowed the dogs behind him to get up to him. And Penny Mac, who had missed the start, he was essentially last away. And then, of course, he cannoned into Waitohi, as we saw there. Then Penny Mac got up on the heels of Bago Bye Bye and dragged him down. Pleased to see that he's come through it okay, though, and that he's in at Addington tomorrow night, backing up there, and Dynamonte is as well. Penny Mac's up against Diddley at Cambridge. And of the other dogs, well, yeah, as I say, it was a shame to see Penny Mac miss the kick, Andy. I was just expecting that at some stage over the 2 Fridays that he would maybe ping off a 5-second opening sectional. Zoo Star ran under sub 5 seconds for an opening sectional on Friday in Class 3, and it was a 5.09 that led clearly there at the first bend, and that's what allowed Nature's Gent to dictate the race.
Also on Friday evening was the running of the New Zealand Racing Series distance. This over the extreme distance of 755 metres there at Wanganui. It was taken out by Translator. You're looking for the dog in the black rug of box number 7.
Racing. Christian Cyborg last away and No Potential was slow as well. Classy Witch shows out. No Power Racer pushing through the inside, followed forward the outside then by Translator. Underneath them would have been No Power Plum, who moves up the track a wee bit further back on the race there. Big Time Lone Star gets a run through. Well, back on the race here to Go Bell, and Christian Cyborg's giving the leader about 15 lengths, and it's Power Racer who sneaks clear by about 3 lengths here. Translator gives chase and looks very hard to beat. 6 lengths away then to Big Time Lone Star. Classy Witch followed around there by Power Plum. No Potential trying to wind up, and then Go Bell, and Christian Cyborg has not flicked the switch at all, and Translator has, and gallops clear by about 8 lengths around the corner. Classy Witch running on there with Big Time Lone Star in nicely. Translator, Classy Witch second, No Potential to third. Then we had Big Time Lone Star, Go Bell.
That was the running of the New Zealand Racing Series distance. Translator finally getting a nice victory. $4.50 she paid on the tote. Rozzo, she tends to come up with wide draws in these bigger finals. She's finally been able to make one work for her, and it's really good to see her and her connections get a nice little win under her belt.
Absolutely, Andy. Marklin was there and handled her on the night, was naturally thrilled. He was around the table at the end of the night too as we enjoyed the post-race celebrations, and she thoroughly deserved this. She's never had much luck at Hattrick, and it was her first win at her 8th attempt there. She went there as a very young dog and tried over 755 metres in a heat of the Wanganui distance at just her 18th start. She had her first ever 600 metre start at just start number 11. And now, Andy, she's had 57 distance races. Her last 32 starts have been beyond 600 metres, and exactly half of those have been beyond 700. It's remarkable, and it's a credit to the Fahey team for being able to negotiate her through those and keep her turning up as well as she does. And she often doesn't have a lot of luck with the draws where she likes to be on the inside. But Andy, we saw her jump to the lead from the front. She couldn't quite go with that speed, and then across the top, Power Plum tangled with Classy Witch, and that allowed Translator to get into a really soft second. At that point there, the black rug runs through into second, and then Classy Witch lost her spot because of that. Honours with Translator, clearly, and as I say, just tremendous for her to get this win, and her stake earnings now up sort of towards the high $70,000. She's been a Group 1 runner-up, she's been a Group 2 runner-up. Andy, a throwback to you on Classy Witch, a greyhound I know you've got a lot of time for, so have I. In terms of future potential, that was very encouraging for Gary Cleve and Galen Turnwood, who provided the 2nd and 3rd place getters there.
Really nice run from both of their greyhounds. Classy Witch, as you touched on, really unlucky into that first turn, and gee, if she doesn't get that check, she goes really close. I know Translator's a good, strong stayer, but gee, she was really handy into that turn, and things went horribly wrong for her. That's only her 2nd or 3rd go over ground, so she's really a stayer of the future as Classy Witch, and No Potential. Getting a little bit long in the tooth now, but gee, she's racing well over these longer distances as No Potential, and she's really hitting the line strong. Rozzo, obviously one we need to talk about in behind. Christian Cyborg. Yeah, as you touched on, just never flicked the switch.
Probably the downer on the night for me. It was an outstanding night, but I was very strong on Christian Cyborg, as I mentioned obviously last week when she was put out at $5 and she started about $2.20, I think, fixed. Now, congratulations to the bookies. They put up $11 across the 2 best bets. Daryl Robinson, who was presenting, and Christian Cyborg. Daryl went with Zoo Star, who dominated his race from box number 1, and I think started at about $3.20 initially and then came into around about $2.50, $2.70. They put up $11 for Zoo Star into Christian Cyborg. They took a lot of money for that and were up for a heck of a liability, but they took that risk and they came through. So well done to them for that. She never got warm. It's like she miscounted the laps, Andy. Look, we've always known that she's got a touch of brilliance, but also, you know, it's just that sort of top inch. Sometimes she goes a bit missing. Hayley has reported, Hayley Mullane, trainer, has said, look, there's nothing obvious wrong with her. Maybe there's a tiny niggle there. She's going to get a second opinion. It was just a terrible run on the face of it, but she was going okay after the line. But after 755 metres, there's just no longer races really, apart from the Silver Collar, which of course she ran 3rd in. So she's always been a bit funny, and a few factors could have combined for that run on the night, Andy, and that's where Hayley's at the moment. She doesn't want to put it back on the track until she's absolutely 100% sure that she will put in. She's done plenty so far. She's been an excitement machine, but I shouldn't really use that word, Andy, because they're not machines. They are animals, and unfortunately she just wasn't on song on the night.
Yeah, she's always been hard to follow, Christiane Cyborg, no doubting her ability, and let's hope that Hayley and the team there can get her back on track and back near 100%. Time to head to a quick break here now on DogZone. On the other side, it's all about the dash for cash. Those were some scenes from Thursday evening at Addington Raceway. Rozzo, I reckon there's half a chance you may have made that your bet of the day, to be honest.
Harsh. Oh, it was like Santa's sleigh, wasn't it, on the dog track there? Yeah, I hope they don't start using that as a warm-up track. That horse looked particularly comfortable, I've got to say, on that track, but that's what happened at Addington Raceway, and sometimes there's nowhere to go when situations occur in the harness racing, and up onto the dog track. It's probably a very nice surface for them. Many of them, of course, get trained on the beach, Andy, and that horse looked right at home.
He certainly did. On Friday night, we also saw the running of the Group 2 Dash for Cash. This was taken out by She's a Ripper, the dog, and the red rug of box number 1.
Racing, Sir Dougie out only fairly best away here. Kathleen, She's a Ripper measures up the inside, and Sir Dougie goes to the outside, and they come away here on Idle Hot, Idle Nifty. Around the outside, Thrilling Katie going forward, then Big Time Blackie, and to the nail is last. She's a Ripper explodes clear as others fan out wide, and She's a Ripper gets the Group 2 win. Idle Hot to second, Idle Nifty to third.
That was the running of the Group 2 Dash for Cash, and She's a Ripper was victorious. Rozzo, obviously a dog deserved of group race victory, and it's really good to see her get it, but there's no doubt that that race changed complexion into the first turn when Kathleen took a little bit of a right-hand turn.
It certainly did, Andy. It was a very rough affair again. Having said that, She's a Ripper had used box 1 so well, and Sir Dougie wasn't able to replicate the exceptionally fast opening sectionals that he had provided the 2 previous weeks. Now, She's a Ripper went through the opening sectional in 6:85, and that's, you know, terrific. She was 6:89 the week before, so she did everything she had to do. Sir Dougie, though, last week had run 6:70, the week before 6:61, astonishing sectionals that would have carried him to a clear lead there. But once he was parked 3 wide on the outside of She's a Ripper, regardless of what happened after that, with Kathleen then running him wide, he just wouldn't have got around She's a Ripper. We know that she runs home stronger than him, and with the inside running. So She's a Ripper, once they were level effectively in a 6:85 opening split, that was race over there. Sir Dougie had to pull out one of his scintillating opening sectionals, and bottom line is, Andy, 6:85 is more than acceptable, but Sir Dougie has set the bar so high for himself, or so low if you want to look at it that way, in terms of how low he can run in time situation. He just wasn't giving himself a winning chance there, but of course he could still have placed. Quite a bit of drama in behind. Another dog who was extremely unlucky was Thrilling Katie. She was running right into it, looked a chance of placing, turning for home, and then getting up on heels. Big Time Blackie copped a bit of that backwash as well. And Idle Hot, who had jammed in on a couple of dogs early and also lost a length or 2 across the top, managed to get the run through. And Idle Nifty, who had been slow away, managed to barge his way into contention. He actually took a knock turning for home too, but he came off better than the other dogs were involved. That allowed She's a Ripper for a bigger winning margin than she otherwise would have had, Andy, but there's no doubt that she was the deserving winner on the night.
She certainly was, and it was great to see her get group race victory as well. We are now lucky enough to be joined by Joe Lanuti. He's the manager of Punters HQ, who does own She's a Ripper. Joe, firstly, thank you very much for joining us here today on the show.
More than welcome, Andy. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. You must be absolutely over the moon. She's a Ripper getting group race victory, and gee, she's very well deserved of it as well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We're wrapped over here. We got a massive kick out of that, and like you said, I think it would be hard to find someone to argue that she is not deserved of a group victory.
We're just having a look at the race on screen now. They went into the first turn. She had the rail. They were 3 abreast outside of her. Were you confident at that point that she was handy enough to win it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's 4 from 4 now from box 1. Once she jumped well, to be fair, I was confident after about 10 or 15 yards. As you can probably see now, if you're still watching it, Sir Dougie was unlucky not to get around Cat Lee. However, I don't think it would have mattered. Even if he did, he would have probably, at very best, been able to get a quarter in front of us, probably just eyeballing us. And you'd have to say he's quicker than us early. There's no arguing there, but I think we're a little bit stronger than him. So I don't think the result was affected by that.
You were pretty good in winning your heat. You didn't clock a lot slower than Sir Dougie, considering it was her first run at Wanganui. In terms of confidence levels going into it, you must have been fairly confident that she could get the job done. Yeah,
we were, and we bet up accordingly over here. We thought the market was right. He deserved to be favoured off the back of those 2 really incredible first splits, and we just said to ourselves that if we could break 690 to the mark, which I understand 660, 670 is ridiculous. If he produced that, he was going to be 2 in front of us and just too good. But it's very hard to continually produce those sectionals week in, week out. So we thought if we could break 690 and we'd use box 1 to our advantage. We remember back to the Galaxy where the box draw didn't suit us, and when we were to the outside, we had to check off heels. We had to come back to the inside, and we only probably just missed by 3/4. And he was just way too good. Hats off to him. He's probably the #1 sprinter in the country. However, when you reverse those boxes and we had the inside, we were very, very confident that she just grows a leg from there. And even if she was, a half to 3/4 behind him swinging for home, we thought that she'd be a little bit too strong for him anyway.
In terms of her future, Joe, is there anything on the radar for her in the immediate future?
Yeah, well, she's going around tomorrow at Christchurch. Obviously, she's backed up quite well. We're going to head up north I think Dave said, for the Christmas and New Year little period up there. There's a couple of races. We discussed at length the other day about potentially going back up to sort of 450, 500, but we had a look at her weight now. She's around the 31 kilo. You'll notice when she ran the 30-15 in the Oaks, Andy, she was down to about 29. So the 2 kilo difference there, it's not impacting her whatsoever over the shorts, but Dave seems to think that it will impact her over the 500. I tend to agree. You just can't get that little bit of weight off her. So I would say we're going to stay around the shorter distances moving forward.
I know breeding's not really the Punters HQ way, but is there any plans on the horizon once she retires to get a couple of litters out of her?
Absolutely. The offers have flooded in, to be fair. We've had 3 offers since winning the Dash for Cash, all 3 from Australia. And so at the moment, we'll have to go to the owners and decide what we're going to do from that point on. But there's a few options there. Yeah, definitely. And then, as Dave said, there's not a lot of pups that are being sold over your way. So that's another option for us. But definitely, yeah. No, she'll have a few litters for sure. The pups they'll be well sought after.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Another greyhound that you have over here at the moment, not under the Punters HQ label, but one that you are involved in is Von Strass, and has been very impressive in the last 2 wins, one of them breaking 30 and the next day going very close to breaking 30. You must be excited about what's coming up for her.
Yeah, she's a really nice bitch. As long as she stays focused, I think she can go, she can go to the heights of She's a Ripper, maybe even further, in the fact that I think distance-wise, 6:45 will be no issue with her whatsoever. We spotted her over here, a little indiscrepancy at Dapto, and we pounced very quickly. Fortunately, we got her, and Dave's got some great owners over there that are loyal and long-time owners, and we've sort of jumped in with them, and we're very excited to be part of that little group, core group of ownership. And yeah, well, listen, it says 30 and 30 on the website, Andy, but I'm pretty confident she ran 30.03 the second go when she won by 8, and I thought her run home was really good. I'm really excited to get her at 6:45. Dave and I talked the other day. We were saying if She's a Ripper was practically favourite for the Oaks, well, this bitch, no offence to She's a Ripper, but this bitch would probably have 4 or 5 lengths on her over 500. But the query will be, if we're not in the Oaks, we touch wood. She could even be a silver collar bitch.
Joe, Mark Rosanowski speaking here, and the Oaks could be very exciting with dogs like Waitohi and Hot Platter and 1 or 2 others as well. Just wanted to say congratulations, because we've had you on either trackside or on the show when things have been tough, like when She's a Ripper had to be scratched out of the Oaks, the Railway defeat, and of course the Galaxy as well. So just want to say congratulations, and we thought we had to get you on with She's a Ripper having been a winner. You talk about Von Strass down there in Christchurch. You've got quite a few dogs up north as well, Hayley Mullane and Emma Potts, and one of them, Tough Talk for Emma Potts, won first up for you in New Zealand and lines up again on Sunday.
Thanks for your kind words, Rosso. Really appreciate it. Tough Talk, fantastic. He's a really good talented. He's a very much talented dog. He hasn't raced since, now don't quote me, I think March. So he was first up for a long time. Emma's been very, very patient. His trial in the lead up was, well, it actually just said winner all over. So we couldn't believe they put up $10 and all the owners had a bet. And he ran the best of the day, I think, by memory, around, you're quoting me, about 18.55, 18.57, something like that. So we were really impressed. He got a little bit tired late, but we're loving our Auckland racing at the moment. We've got, obviously, the Mullane Kennels up there, and Winlock Sienna's coming through, and there's another pretty smart maiden that you'll see in the next couple of weeks as well.
Beautiful. That's what we like to hear, Joe. It's always good to see the owners getting $1 or $2 back on these greyhounds. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the show, Joe, and once again, well done with She's a Ripper getting Group 2 victory.
Greatly appreciated, lads. Take care.
That was Joe Lanuti. He is the manager of Punters HQ, owners of She's a Ripper, who took out the Group 2 Dash for cash on Friday evening. Rozzo, always good getting Joe on the show and on trackside. He's a brilliant talker, and he does really know his stuff when it comes to greyhounds.
Yeah, certainly. We get really good feedback when we get Joe on, and as I've said before, it's remarkable just how well he knows and understands the New Zealand scene, given he doesn't actually live in this country. Andy, one dog I want to mention on the undercard from Friday night is Corborn Mezza. She won what was effectively the Dash for Cash consolation 2 years after she won a 520 metre race on the same card. Now, talking about longevity, that's outstanding. She's over 4 now. She's racing as well as ever. She doubled up with another win on Monday at Manawatu. Jake and Days Bell got a double on Monday and a double on Friday, and Corborn Mezza was half of that double on both days. So well done to her. And she's got more wins left in her, and she's won 28 so far.
She certainly has, Belle, and the Belle's doing a marvellous job with her at the moment as well in Corborn Mezza. Well, that's about all we have time for here on the show. Rozzo, we'll head back to you. Thank you once again for all your input on the show, and best of luck with the rest of the week for you.
Well, thanks, Andy. We've got a lot of dogs coming out of those 2 races all around the country this week, so look out for them over the next 4 or 5 days. And, of course, our attention now starting to turn to Cambridge and the Christmas and New Year racing.
Always exciting, that Christmas Eve race meeting at Cambridge. Usually 20 races on the card and the best of the best going around there. Well, that's all we have time for here on DogZone. We'll be back next week with more reviews and previews of greyhound racing from around the country. But until then, happy punting.